Hello, Tri-Cities, and welcome to the 2020 Candidate Forum, the only region-wide business-focused forum in the Tri-Cities, brought to you by the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce. And today you're going to hear from candidates for Washington State Senate Legislative District 16. I'm Carissa Lemko. I'm a news anchor with KVUE. And don't forget, ballots do go out as soon as October 13th. And of course, voting day is Tuesday, November 3rd. Before we begin, we do want to hear from the president and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce, Lori Matson.
As the foremost advocate and voice for business, the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce leads by advancing policies and positions that strengthen, preserve, and promote a thriving business climate, economy, and quality of life. The 2020 candidate forums are designed to highlight how candidate positions integrate with local business priorities. I'd like to take a brief moment to thank the Chamber's Board of Directors and Local Government Affairs Committee for their leadership in supporting our advocacy efforts. I'm especially pleased and grateful for the support of the candidate forum sponsors, Cascade Natural Gas, GISA Credit Union, JLH Group, and Hayden Homes. And last but not least, a very special thanks to our local news partners for collaborating on this project. Your time, talent, and expertise are valued and truly appreciated.
All right. Thank you so much, Lori. It is a pleasure to serve the community by being here today and holding this forum, helping voters become better informed about the people they could be voting for in this election. So let's start with the format today. Each candidate will have 1 minute for opening and closing statements. The candidates will each be asked the same questions. Response time for each question is limited to 2 minutes. Time limit reminders will appear on the screen at 10 seconds remaining, and if necessary, when the time is up. And since this is a forum, candidates will not be provided rebuttal time. So we're now ready to get started. Let's begin by introducing both of these candidates for the Washington State Senate in the 16th Legislative District today. We have Mr. Perry Dozier and Ms. Danielle Garbe Reser. Thank you so much for joining us today, both of you. And if you're ready to go, let's get started. As mentioned, we're going to start in alphabetical order. So Mr. Dozier, will start with you and your opening statement, and you have 1 minute for that.
Okay, very good. Again, good morning. And just briefly about myself, I'm married and I have 2 grown sons. I have a degree in economics from Whitman College, and I served Eastern Washington in various capacities now for 20 years. And first it was with the Washington Association of Wheat Growers. I was state president in 2001. And then 2 years I served as a Washington State Barley Commissioner. In 2008, I was elected to the Walla Walla County Commissioner. Served 2 terms there, and with that, I've gained quite a bit of experience. I farm right now, and looking forward to being your next senator.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dozier, and we're going to go to Danielle Garbe Reser for your opening statement. You have 1 minute.
The last big in-person event I attended was the Tri-Cities Regional Chambers Women in Business Conference. A huge thank you to the service and the network that the Tri-Cities Chamber provides to your members and for the opportunity to gather here today. I'm originally from Moses Lake, and I'm running for the state senate because I believe I can provide a higher return on investment to residents across our district. I alone would have the opportunity to sit in the majority room and tell Western Washington's Democrats what they're getting wrong about Eastern Washington. We know our communities have different needs, and I've seen what they need from business because I'm the daughter of a small business owner. I saw long hours of hard work, and I see the same now on our farm, where we know we need more common sense and fiscal responsibility out of Olympia. I served our country under both Republican and Democratic administrations. I'd be honored to serve our region and to make a bright future for all of Eastern Washington.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Garbe Reser. We're going to go now into our question and answer time. We did have a coin toss at the beginning of this forum, and so Mr. Dozier will start, and then we'll alternate throughout the questioning. So the first question for you is, this has been a year like no other, of course. Our state has been struggling with the coronavirus, economic downturn, severe unemployment, civil unrest, and catastrophic wildfires most recently. How should the legislature address the gaping hole in the state budget?
Well, I think to start off with, it should have been addressed a lot sooner, was my feeling. This year started off with a huge surplus, projected surplus in our state's budget of $2.4 billion. By the time we got done with the first quarter, we were experiencing the beginning of COVID, and then all of our small businesses were shut down. At that point, our small businesses still had to make their first payment on the B&O tax, which had been raised, and which was difficult at that time because there was no assistance to our small businesses. They were hurt for cash flow. Without having any type of relief in the beginning and being shut down for months, they've struggled. So I think what we have to do is look as we move into this next stage, especially in 2021, is figure out what services we may have to reduce. And we got to keep those small businesses working because they are the catalyst for the economics here in Washington State. When they employ people and they sell their products, they contribute to the taxes that are paid to the state, and that's what runs our state. I think the most gaping problem that we had in this budget was the unexpectedness and the length of it. And because of that, again, as we started reopening, we have seen different counties' tax revenues pick up. I know I just talked to the county treasurer in Walla Walla, and they've got some good returns on sales tax. I'm sure as we're building in the Tri-Cities, we're 1.5. If we can get into that stage 2 and get those businesses fully opening again, then I think we're going to see somewhat of a recovery. What worries me the most, though, we know we had high unemployment numbers, but it's going to be those numbers in, say, 6 months from now when we're fully open. How many small businesses did we lose? And what is that impact going to have on us in the future?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dozier. Ms. Garbe Reser, I'll read the question one more time for you. Our state has been struggling with the coronavirus, economic downturn, severe unemployment, civil unrest, and then the wildfires, of course. So how should the legislature address this gaping hole in the state budget?
It's been a tremendously challenging year in our communities and for our businesses. And I've just admired the way everyone has really pulled together to try and make things better in our communities and look out for each other. We need that same pulling together in our state legislature. I agree with the Republicans that we should have called a special session so that we could have started exploring some of these issues and making earlier decisions about how best to strategize moving forward. We know from the latest budget projections over this last week that revenues are higher across our state, but we still know we will have to make tough choices in this next budget. So the first issue is to make sure that the federal government is supporting our communities. Our whole economy relies heavily on federal dollars, especially towards Hanford and our big workforce there. We need to make sure that we look at all that new spending that was approved in January, and some of it was vetoed, but not enough to make sure we balance going forward. And then we're going to have to make hard decisions about the services that continue, and agency heads have been asked to really look at their budgets and make their best guesses about where to cut. We need to rely on data and science and experts to make those decisions. And I want to make sure our community members are part of that process of saying, these are the services we need to make sure we continue in our communities, whether that's infrastructure to continue getting our goods to market, or maybe it's in the mental health care space, because we know we had challenges throughout our region before COVID, and they've only gotten worse in the last few months. So together we can prioritize, and we will have to make tough decisions, but we need to make smart decisions, both for today and for the long-term needs of our communities.
All right, Ms. Garbe Reser, you will start for the second question. If you had the opportunity to change the B&O tax without lowering or eliminating it, what change or changes would you make and why?
This is really an area where I want to hear directly from voters. It was clear from the Association of Washington Businesses in their latest survey that 44% of businesses said they would prefer some relief in the B&O tax. Clearly, it's a unique tax to Washington state and one that's really challenging to a number of businesses. I've seen proposals like moving from gross receipts to net receipts. I'd really like to hear more from our district about what options would better serve, especially our smaller businesses in the region, and take those to Olympia to say, these are the changes that make sense for Eastern Washington. We can't do a one-size-fits-all policymaking process for our communities.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dozier. I'll read the question one more time for you. If you had the opportunity to change the B&O tax without lowering or eliminating it, what changes would you make and why?
Well, obviously, the B&O tax is probably a much better tax, I would say, than an income tax. But if we couldn't lower it, I'd like to see maybe the levels of the tax credits changed, so you wouldn't maybe pay your B&O on your first, say, maybe $100,000 of gross revenue. Or, of course, I think we should also explore net revenues. I know a lot of businesses that are not being profitable right now and still having to make those B&O taxes. That tax structure is extremely, I want to say, difficult for most small businesses. And the elimination of it can't happen, I don't believe so, without the income tax side of it. I would like to see all businesses probably participate a little bit more in it. We need to talk to our regional chambers. We need to talk to the leaders there and try to put their thoughts together with the legislature to come up with some solutions.
All right, Mr. Dozier, you will start with question 3. There are discussions about imposing new statewide taxes, such as a road usage charge, a capital gains income tax, a Seattle-based payroll tax, a tax to pay for childcare, wildfire prevention and response tax, and a carbon tax. Do you support any of these taxes? Why or why not?
No, I do not support a lot of those taxes. I know there was a proposal out there to help fund transportation. It was a $17 billion tax increase over the next 10 years. And obviously, transportation is a huge issue in the state, and we need to figure how we're going to be able to continue with funding all of our transportation projects. But some of the taxes that were in that transportation tax proposal was gross weight fees for our vehicles, increasing those, increasing gross weight fees on motorhomes that normally we would use for our vacations. Our vacations will cost us more. And I'm concerned about the carbon tax. That carbon tax has been brought up multiple times, I know, in the past. As a past county commissioner, we were concerned about the carbon tax and the effects it would have on our largest taxpayer in the county, which is Boise Cascade. Now, if we continue to tax these businesses that are still operating now, they won't have that opportunity for expansion, or we may lose those businesses out of the state. I've heard rumors about maybe Boeing moving to South Carolina. We need to keep our businesses here as much as we can. It's not through taxation. Trying to solve a bad economic problem with taxation is not going to work. I still believe it all comes down to employment of people, and those paying the taxes that they're already paying, because that's where the amount of revenue that's going to be generated for us. As for another gas tax, we already have the highest gas tax in the nation right now. So we're just going to continue to hurt those people that are dependent upon traveling. Here in Eastern Washington, we travel quite a bit more on our roads than some of the other places because our length of commute to go to work is so much longer. But we really need to continue to not try to overtax the people.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dozier. Ms. Garbe Reser, I'll reread it for you. There are discussions about imposing new statewide taxes, roads usage charge, capital gains income tax, a Seattle-based payroll tax, a tax to pay for childcare, wildfire prevention and response tax, and a carbon tax as well. And do you support any of these? Why or why not?
The whole range of the tax issues is a really great example of why we need an Eastern Washington Democrat in the room, shaping the agenda that's discussed in Olympia and speaking up for our communities. Because it's clear that taxation is not of interest in our region. I've been very clear, I oppose an income tax. I know that we have a significantly different tax base, and it's frustrating to county commissioners and businesses alike to see the West Side approve policies that don't work out here, and they cost us more money, or they just don't work for our communities. So I want to speak up for the real needs in our region. On if a Seattle billionaire wants to spend more in taxes, that would probably be helpful to our state. But I know for our region, this is not a land of billionaires. We want to create opportunity here through our region, and taxation is not the way that's going to happen.
All right, we have one more question for you both, and Ms. Garbe Reser, you'll start with this one. Do you see the benefits of career-focused education and skills training programs? And if so, how do you believe the legislature can best support them?
We do have tremendous careers-focused training out here, and I've just been delighted to see the incredible work being done, especially through our community colleges or through apprenticeship programs with our unions. And Columbia Basin College has really led the way in a number of these initiatives in the Tri-Cities region. And of course, we have Walla Walla Community College over on the other side of the district. And these programs are key to developing the workforce of the future. We know that number of the jobs that we've lost this year may not come back, and that automation is dramatically changing our economy. So we need to make sure that we're training a skilled workforce that can meet those jobs and that economic demand, and that we provide that training in our communities so that people want to continue to stay and live and work and raise their families throughout the 16th district. I think the legislature can be a partner in this. I also feel like business and philanthropy, which is my background running as CEO of Sherwood Trust, I saw where we could create really unique partnerships with government, business, and nonprofits, especially where we have shared interest in workforce development and getting more people trained up for the jobs of the future. I'd love to take that creative problem solving to Olympia in this space and make
it's here for Eastern Washington.
All right, Mr. Dozier, I'll reread the question for you. Do you see the benefits of career-focused education and skill programs? And if so, how do you believe the legislature can best support them?
Yeah, I think there's a tremendous benefit for career-focused education right now, definitely more now than what it has been in the past. With the loss of employment, a lot of these people need to be retrained. I think our community colleges have always been a really strong point in doing that. I know the programs that we've had at Walla Walla Community College and Columbia Basin College over the years have trained many people that have entered the workforce. One of the things that concerns me is that we've lost these programs as the economy got better. I know that Walla Walla Community College had kept their carpentry program, and now as the building is expanding and growing, we need to get those people trained. It's a quick way for somebody to go in and spend a couple of years or less, retrain themselves and enter the job market again and not be dependent on unemployment. The funding needs to continue there. I believe that the funding for higher education is only 13% of the total educational budget that's spent for K-12 and through higher education. The training programs there then will move those people to new stages. Another one that is important that I believe was I was had on the Workforce Development Council, and there's multiple programs that are funded that will help young teens, older teens, and new people into the market too, and which is a little bit different than the higher education funding that I spoke about. They're more apprentice type programs. So that funding needs to be continued also as we move forward. And then I think we'll be able to get those people back on a career and be a productive part of society, as I would call it, and which will make a huge difference for the state as a whole and their economy also.
All right, that ends our question and answer period. You'll each have 1 minute for a closing statement. And Mr. Dozier, since you started with the opening statement, Ms. Garbe Reser, you can go ahead and start this section.
Thank you. Some of the best career advice I ever got from my dad was to ask for the job. So I want to be clear that I'm asking for the honor of serving as our region's next state senator, and that I'd be incredibly honored to earn your vote. I believe that I can return, as I said, a much higher investment back to our region. I have a track record from my time in philanthropy of attracting over $500,000 in outside investment into the region. This is one of the key needs we have, is to go to Olympia and make sure we're standing up for the needs of Eastern Washington, that we get our fair share, that we bring those resources back to the region, and that we can finally make Olympia listen to us. I invite you to learn more about ways to connect with our campaign at our website, garbereser.com. However you decide to vote this year, please help keep our democracy strong by participating in the process and making sure to vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dozier, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Okay, thank you. As a lifelong resident of this county and this entire district, and also as a small business owner, I understand the needs of the county and of the district and of Eastern Washington. I've gained a lot of experience over my years working with many different people in the various capacities, again, that I had served. My past experience as a Walla Walla County Commissioner, and especially in budgeting and my economic background, will be a tremendous asset over in Olympia, as we are going to be working through a very tough financial period. I had that same tough financial period as a county commissioner during the earlier recession. I believe that I will be a good choice for your next senator, and because of that background. And I would like you to visit my website, if you would, dozierforsenate.com, to learn more about me, and be sure and vote, because this is a very important election this year to get everybody out and vote so we make sound choices. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to you both for joining us today for the 2020 Candidate Forum put on by the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce, featuring candidates for the Washington State Senate Legislative District number 16. We, of course, want to remind all of you watching, especially if you have friends in the 16th Legislative District, to get out and vote on Election Day, November 3rd, coming up here. You can also find this video if you want to go back and watch it, or find videos featuring other candidates on the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce website. That's tricityregionalchamber.com. And again, thank you so much to the Chamber, to KView, the candidates, and we want to mention all our sponsors as well: Cascade Natural Gas, Gisa Credit Union, the JLH Group, and Hayden Homes. And thanks to all of you for watching as well. I'm Carissa Lemkel for KView Local News, reminding you to get out and vote.